Minister, you might remember previously when you were Minister and there were grants for retrofitting on the islands and for warmer home grants and so on, there was a higher rate of grant aid on the islands. My question to you is, are you going through the same process now, higher ceilings for the maximum expenditure and also lower threshold for island contractors who wouldn't have €1 million turnover, so that we do get not only work done on the islands, but that a lot of the island work would be done by islanders, which would have a double effect, because you know yourself that the islanders are very, very keen on reducing their carbon footprint and are very creative in doing so.
You're right, Deputy, and I remember your role in that and the recognition for a number of reasons why we did favour the islands. Firstly, they were very demonstrable. A certain geographic area you can show and measure. The likes of Inishmore and the Aran Islands have been hugely progressive in showing leadership in terms of how communities can come together. Second reason is because for the issue of energy security, shipping fossil fuels, gas, oil, coal, any other fossil fuels out to an island is inherently expensive and brings risks with it. So yes, we did provide those higher grants. It did deliver. There were some 300 home energy upgrades have been supported in the island since 2014 on the Community Energy Grant Scheme, and 29 applications since in the same time for the better energy homes and 37 on the warmer homes. So it has worked. I believe, though, we've moved to a different phase. And I believe that the new grant levels which we introduced 2 weeks ago, 50% and up to 80% grants, are actually the sort of grant levels that will make the case in the islands or onshore. That when you get to that level of grant facility or facilities, it does overcome the cost impediments, and the economic case is there. And also the experience in the islands of having done it, having built up the ability, the skills, the examples in the past. That was what those initial doubled higher grants were put in place to deliver. I believe they have delivered that. I don't believe it appropriate to extend them. I think the current grant system, the new grant system that we're introducing, is sufficient and is the right measure.
I have to say I'm very disappointed with the reply, and it seems to fail to recognise that getting any goods and often labour onto the islands is way more expensive than trying to do the equivalent on the mainland. And for example, if you bring cargo to the mainland, you have to pay the cargo fee, you're actually paying VAT on the cargo fee. And they're all extra costs. Then you have to transship it from the harbour to wherever in the island it's going. Minister, can I ask you to meet a delegation from Coa, Lilla and Nahéireann, who are very anxious to outline to you why your policy is actually not treating all the people of not only the island of Ireland, but the territorial islands in an equal way, because of very, very different costs. And as you said, the islanders have been very, very innovative in what they've been doing. There's been huge success. But why not build on this success and make them models, micro-models of the absolutely carbon neutral societies that we could then bring people to, not only Irish people, but worldwide people to show how a carbon neutral society actually works?
I'm happy to meet the organisation you mentioned and to discuss this issue, but I would also like, if we do, to broaden it out, because I think there's a lot we can learn from islands. The sort of island skills you mentioned, that ability to be innovative and flexible and do a variety of different tasks, often the community coming together, is something that we can, if we want to protect, we want to enhance, and we want to deploy on the mainland as well as it exists on the island. But I keep coming back to, I suppose, I don't give false hope in going into such a meeting, because when you get up to grant levels of 50 and 80%, and indeed warmer homes and others projects, it is 100% grant. So the full cost is covered, and that will still apply to a lot of housing in the island. Anyone in Ireland who's in receipt of fuel allowance, disability allowance, living or other allowances will be able to get that 100% grant. So I don't think it's necessary for us to make the leap we need to make to have a separate grant system for the islands, but I do agree with you that they have particular circumstances that I'm keen to support in whatever way, other ways I can.
Yeah, well, thankfully, a lot of people in Ireland are not in receipt of fuel because they actually have incomes, and this is something we've been working hard on to create over the years. But there are huge extra costs in living in an island. Minister, there are three parts to the question. One is the higher rate of grant. The second one is the maximum of cost allowed, because it is more expensive to do things on islands than to do it on the mainland. And therefore the ceilings you have of 50,000 and 2,000 and so on, they should be higher on the islands. And the second issue is the turnover of the contractors, because there is no way will you get an island-based contractor whose main focus is on energy work on islands with a turnover of €1 million per year. So, Minister, will you address the second two questions? I'd be very interested, and I welcome your agreement to meet with the islanders. They've sent a letter to you. I hope that that could happen in the next few weeks because, as you know, they're probably the greatest enthusiasts in the country for making their islands carbon neutral and making their part of the world carbon neutral.
I will look at that threshold for turnover, although I said what I don't want to do is create such a complex bureaucratic system that you have a separate issue. But if that is an issue, we will look at that. But there's a variety of issues here when it comes to higher costs. Obviously, the ferry or the cargo ferry cost is one of the most significant. Our department, in a whole variety of ways, is keen and is supporting the islands, particularly in terms of management of those ferries and the contract arrangements around it. No, but we government support it. Can I say the grant levels again? The basic key grant would be for something like a heat pump. In that instance, it is the grant will stay fixed. And it'll vary. The overall building costs may change, but I think it's appropriate for us to go to this mechanism where it's a set level, so people are certain. We don't want to create a completely different separate system for the islands, which might end up adding expense. But I will come back to you and with the Islands Organisation to look to see what can be done outside a separate grant system.
Question 85 is